Welcome to Wayward Writers. I'm Senior Literary Agent and author Heather Cashman.
I'm author and writing coach Stephanie Bearce.
And I'm author and writing coach Nicki Jacobsmeyer.
Our mission is to nurture and enrich established writers throughout their publishing journeys.
We welcome all genres, age groups, and publishing paths through video podcasts, online webinars, in-person retreats, and more.
We're here to help you conquer your path. Hi, today on Wayward Writers podcast, we're joined by Patty McGee, a nationally recognized grammar expert, author, and consultant known for helping writers understand how grammar actually works in a real world writing, which we are very thrilled about to hear. Patty is the author of several influential books on grammar and feedback, including Feedback That Moves Writers Forward and Not Your Granny's Grammar. And her work focuses on clarity, intention, and using grammar as a tool rather than a set of rigid rules. While Patty is widely known for her work in education, today we're going to shift the conversation to something our audience of professional and aspiring writers wrestle with every day. Grammar as a craft choice, not something that freezes us in fear or drains our voice. So, Patty, we are so glad you're here to help us all out and hear your words of wisdom. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So a lot of professional writers say they know grammar, but still feel nervous about the whole thing. So from your perspective, why does grammar still feel scary even after writers leave school behind?
I think that we have been imprinted with shame and fear around grammar usage. When you think about it, it's all around us, especially in school. We're getting corrected, and the teacher is looking to just fix things, and here's your voice on the page, and that feels very vulnerable and personal. And the materials that are mainly used to learn grammar, especially when I was growing up, were really not helpful for the majority of us. Like they were fill in the blanks and memorize all of the prepositions or it was just like an immediate expectation that we get this one chance to learn about this type of sentence, let's say. And then there's this expectation that we know it and should be able to use it right away. And on top of all of that, what follows us out of school, while they were probably staring at us in school, are t-shirts that say, I'm silently correcting your grammar. That, a mug that
I haven't seen that one. My favorite's the everywhere. Oxford comma, because I'm totally in the Oxford comma school. But yeah, you're right. I never really thought of that.
And then there's grammar police mugs. In so many classrooms, they have a list of fatal flaws, they call them. Grammatical fatal flaws. So the more we're immersed in this almost punitive kind of experience, that's what happens to us.
Yeah.
And no matter how strong of a writer you are, no matter how successful, that little voice still lives in there.
Yeah, it makes me think of red pens. I don't use red ink specifically because of that, and my palms are clammy now just even talking about this. So someone else asked a question.
Well, what it makes me think of is, and it's advice I've given to people actually, is learn the rules so you can break them. But in practice, and from what I'm hearing, like maybe that's not very helpful. So I feel like there has to be some kind of rules so that when you're reading, you're not confused, right? But then how can we actually think about bending grammar without feeling like we're doing something wrong, but also still being understandable?
Well, first, I respectfully disagree with you about the needing to know grammar.
Okay.
I do think knowing certain parts of grammar really well, specifically sentence types, and then intentionally breaking them or misusing them, it feels to me like Picasso was a fine artist before he went all Picasso on us. So I do want all authors to find their voice and to do so in a way that are not just thinking about what they want to say on the page, how they want to say it, but with just a couple of building blocks that I think it's really all we need, to be honest with you. But there are other things that are expected. But I just think an author of any type of writing needs to know simple, compound, complex sentences, and then the ever elusive compound, complex sentence. And when we know that we're not going to always use all four, but if we are looking, say, rereading a piece that we wrote, does it musically sound like you want it to? Does it rhythmically sound like you want it to? And if it doesn't, you can turn to those four buddies of yours, simple, compound, complex, and compound, complex sentences, and see if revising or mixing them up or choosing to combine sentences in a meaningful way, they're just a really nice tool to have.
My gosh, I'm so fascinated.
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah, and
it.
I'm wondering,
I'm learning. I love
as
being
people are
disagreed
driving
with.
right now, if I were driving and I just heard that, my next question would be, well, what are the four friends? Where can I find the four friends?
We might need to take a break and tell us your four friends here.
Okay. The four friends are simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and there's two ways to make complex sentences. And then there's a hyphen in this, compound, complex. So they're kind of like mixed up. It has three clauses in it. And at least one of them needs to be an independent clause, aka simple sentence.
And these are things that we can learn
Yeah.
in your books?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are
Okay.
the book is really for teachers for two reasons. One, reinventing the experience of grammar, just so that it's based on curiosity and experimentation and play and reflection. And it's also built with this. I have a co-author, Tim Donahue. If you think I'm a guru, he's the guru. I don't know how to say somebody that's
Capital
more guru
G.
than a guru. Yes, exactly. And he has a whole section explaining all things grammar and also some videos of him teaching in his basement. His boys took videos of him teaching about the different concepts. But starting at the sentence level, these are things that just knowing the basics of will make a world of difference in how we look at our writing when we're revising and even when we're drafting. Because once they become really fluent, like, oh, I think that this feels very much like a compound complex sentence because I've written in shorter sentences prior to this long musical one that I'd like to share.
Talking about drafting, you mentioned that. Should we really be worried that much about grammar when we're drafting it? Or is that something we can let it go and come back and do it in the revision pass? What do you think?
I think it depends on how fluent we are in terms of sentences. If they feel like, oh gosh, how do you make a compound sentence again? Then I don't think it should be part of drafting. But having very fluent usage of, like, if we want to write an email that's something convincing and we're so used to how to write these types of sentences, then we can use them. So for those of us who feel super comfortable with different sentence structures, I would say it can be part of the draft, but it would also definitely be part of the revision. Sometimes it's just hard to get what you want to say down the first time. So if you're like, I'm going to put it in a compound sentence, may not work, but I'm just going to choose that structure right now because I need to get this out of here and onto here. So it can be a tool.
It's good to know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So obviously you work with language every day, Patty. So what's one grammar rule that you see professional writers stressing over that really doesn't deserve that much power? Or do you think there are any at all, I guess is the other part to that.
Mm. Well, this would be more of an opinion. So, first, a comma splice just makes my stomach twist in a knot. So, a comma splice, for those listening that aren't sure what it is, we see, well, once you know what it is, you're going to see them everywhere. It's when you take a simple sentence or an independent clause and another independent clause and you connect them with a comma. That's my pet peeve, I would say. And it's, I think, a rule that's going to change eventually because it's being used so often in so many different places. One of my directors, when I worked in a center for curriculum development, has a doctorate from Teachers College at Columbia. He is one of the most brilliant men I've ever met in my life. But comma splices were coming left and right in his writing. I'm like, Bob, I am going in and I'm getting rid of these comma splices. Now, that's terrible because I don't want to be like shaming anybody, and I want to change the whole tone of grammar usage and learning around. But inside my head, the comma splice is something I would say to avoid. But the thing that I don't think we need to pay that much attention to is a lot of other things. Like, I I don't think we need to worry about the comma before the conjunction in a compound sentence. I think those are becoming not very common, I guess. When I was looking for the standard grammar that we have to teach as educators, realize that these are the rules. Like you need to put a comma between the independent clause and the conjunction followed by another independent clause. I was like, really? I don't think that's something we need to worry about anymore. That said, there are certain, say, complex sentence rules that I think make it easier for readers to follow. And those would be with a different set of conjunctions, the subordinating conjunctions. We have nicknames for so many of these things to make them feel functional, like subordinating conjunctions, or we also call them sentence destroyers, because if you take a simple sentence like he ran, and then you put the word because in front of it, because he ran is not a complete sentence, though we can use it as one because we are artfully trying to say something on the page. Like if it's because he ran and we decide to put lots of white space around that's the artistic side of it all.
I love that. It's interesting because I think the hardest part about this is that everyone feels differently, right? Like there are times when I open a query or like someone will ask me to do, freelance editing for them and I open it up and I'm like, I can't even tell what they're saying. I can't even tell what they're trying to say because they don't have a grasp of punctuation.
I think that say though, like there are things in grammar that we don't need to use. Like we don't need to say, wow, your piece needs more infinitives. Like that's an infinitive is to walk,
Right.
to run, to play. Like that's silly. But to have some of the basics around how we can expand, combine, and create sentences on the page with punctuation that makes sense with it, it's not that hard to learn. I think it just wasn't taught to us using methods that worked for the majority of us.
Yeah, and therefore makes us all not want to do
Yes.
it. So it's struggle. But I do think that, I mean, again, on the flip side, I have seen people take, the white space on the page, like you were saying, and use it really artfully and make such huge impacts with that or things like that. And it really does help create a unique voice. There are infinite ways you can combine it and make your voice unique, right? So, how do you think grammar can help a writer sound more like themselves instead of maybe flattening their voice or making it more rigid?
So I think, first of all, I think the case that you brought up where you were editing someone's piece for them and you were having trouble following it. And so I think some basic knowledge of, like I said, sentences and some different uses of punctuation, I think are very useful. Those are like just ingredients that will help us really find our voice on the page. And when we know them, we use them. I think of grammar like an artist's paintbrush, that they learn different brush strokes and they practice those strokes until they become so second nature that they choose to use them at certain times or not, and then maybe like use them in combination with another brush stroke and they just made up their own. And that's where their voice as an artist finds itself on the page. And I believe the same with grammar.
I want to become the Bob Ross of grammar.
I love that.
Me too.
That is a worthy goal.
It is. That's so fun.
So in trying to be the Bob Ross of grammar, how do we as writers know where our job ends and the copy editor begins? What are the grammar issues that the author should handle herself, and what do you just leave for the copy editor?
The way that I've approached that in my writing is that it's due, that I just did my best grammatically and, with what a copy editor would look for, and then I hand it over because it's time. And just talking about Not Your Granny's Grammar, like I said, Tim is Guru capital G, and he reread our book multiple times looking for grammatical things. So I was still learning from him after it was even in manuscript form. But we had a copy editor, and she found many other things that needed polishing. And then, to boot, one of my good friends who reads things like every word on the page found a mistake. So I think that really it's not a particular time, although we want to feel like we own what we've written and we want to feel like we've made our best work here. But when it's due, it's due.
Good.
Yeah.
Practical advice for writers everywhere. Turn it in.
Well, and that's like how, I mean, every book, it's a whole community and there's many hands that make a book. And it's so collaborative, even if there's just one author and, things like that. So, what about distraction? So, if I'm trying to query an editor or agent, are there certain grammar habits that would immediately distract them? And not because they're maybe technically wrong, but they completely pull the agent or editor out of the story.
I think it's just the ones we repeat. Like, I think each of us has our own voice in errors as well. Like my first book was written long before AI, and I tried to use an M dash every once in a while. And my editor, who would admit, she was sitting right here, she is not a tech person at all, but she was so tired of looking at what was supposed to be an M dash that she stopped all editing and she said, please go back and look for M dashes. This is how you make them. Are repetitive, not mistakes necessarily, but repetitive things that keep coming up will be the red flag for our copy editors.
That makes sense.
Our fingerprint mistake.
I second that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess at what point, Heather, this is for you too. Is that something you can look over? I mean, I guess maybe if the story's good enough, or but I mean, at what point are you like, okay, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a range, like I was saying, from the person who I can't even like decipher what they're actually trying to say because there are literally zero capitals, there are missing quotes, there are, like stuff like that. I think though things like where okay, so they don't know how to do an M dash. I mean, that's a search and replace. Like no big deal. And if the writing is good, if the voice is good, if I'm pulled in, I'm going to forgive a lot of that stuff probably. It's a matter of just juggling time, I suppose, and like do I have time for this? That's the main thing. And the other thing that I have been thinking about during this whole conversation is for some reason like the world doesn't like colons and semicolons and I like them. And I'm not saying like people should like put them all over their
Uh-oh.
manuscript,
You're
but
in.
I feel like we have my inbox
Yeah,
is going to
the picture
explode
book's
with
going to be
semicolons,
titled
but
colon and semicolon.
I guess the thing is that I feel like they are ways to like express yourself and have voice and how you were saying people were combining these two sentences with commas and I feel like it's because we've lost the
Mhm.
semicolon. And so anyway, I don't know. I guess I just feel like I wish people were more free in their minds with these
Yeah.
grammar rules.
So I did a historical deep dive into finding out kind of where this came from, this kind of set of rules and why we had to follow them so closely. And this might not be the origin, but I would say this is definitely of the historical problem. Back during the golden age, the middle class was growing and they wanted some education for themselves too. And they decided, big group of them had enough money to go to Harvard. And Harvard was like, who are these people? And they didn't talk, they didn't write like the upper echelon that was there. So what they did was they created a class and put all of the people that they deemed not the upper echelon into the class. It was hundreds of men. And they then basically, their mission was to purge all of their writing, these students' writing, from what they called linguistic barbarisms. And so many of the proofreading marks that we use today started then at that juncture. But even so, there were still people who said, when you do this, you're losing their voice. You're taking away their agency. And so the conversation we're having today is a similar conversation as then.
It's fascinating.
So we can
Okay,
blame
yeah.
Harvard.
That's
Now,
what you should
but now I want to.
note.
I want a T-shirt that says "linguistic barbarism."
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
Oh my
committed.
gosh, that's just fun to say.
That would be me.
Isn't it?
I have committed it.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
We
I
can
love
market
it.
that one.
Well,
It
and
is
I mean,
fascinating.
to go off script here, I think of the kids today when we go in and do school visits and their grammar and they're using tablets and everything's spell check. And I need spell check more than anyone else in the world. I'm not downing that fact, but I'm just saying like it's frightening sometimes. You know what I mean? Because we're used to machines doing it for us now. So we don't have to learn it because
But maybe in a way it will start a revolution of absolute original writing and thought.
maybe.
Maybe I sometimes I think that I get more conflicting answers from the bots than I do people. You have Grammarly telling you one thing and Word telling you another thing, and it's like having to sort through. I'm not sure which AI is all that intelligent on grammar.
Right. Well, and
What do we do
houses,
about that?
yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, and that's, I think, just enforces the point that we need to know some basics. We need to know how to construct, combine, and expand sentences, what that looks like, how to do it, and what punctuation will help you with that. And then we can, we can still do this before having that knowledge, but we can really look at something that AI has created and say, is this what I wanted? Or is this sounding better than what I had put down? Or, and that's assuming they're taking writing that's original and putting it in to see what AI says about it. But even if they're starting from scratch, knowing your preferences, knowing your own artistry in writing, knowing what matters to you. For lack of a better metaphor, it's like I have curly hair. I have a different routine than people who don't. And I want my curly hair. So I do certain things to keep my curly hair. And other people would prefer their hair straight. And so they straighten their hair and they have a different look to it. And once we know the look we want, we go for that. And I feel like it's the same in writing. Is this the look I want in my writing? Or do I just want to leave it up to a bot?
Hell no.
Hell no, we won't go.
Okay, so
Good.
I think we're getting several t-shirt
I
ideas
feel like
today.
we need to add to our swag shop.
Totally.
Yeah. So when you're talking about that, I actually just on Sunday wrote a Substack on my right of way about this, that people really need to know themselves before they take critique. And I think that's the same with this whole thing with voice and all of that. I also have noticed that, like, if you cross genres or you're crossing from literary into the commercial space or all of these different things, there's obviously different grammar rules, different ways that you're going to phrase things, different things that you're going to use, essentially rules that you play by. How do you think writers should adjust their grammar expectations for fiction versus nonfiction, or kids' books versus adult work, or maybe just adjusting in general among all these different things?
I simply think that we need to put in the forefront of our minds who we're writing for. If we're writing for kids, how grammatically sound do we want it to be? If we're writing a doctorate, what style guide am I following? So it's really considering your audience and choosing to use or intentionally misuse grammar to create meaning that you want your audience to hear.
That's great. Yeah. Think of your audience. I think that's great because, yeah, especially for the little ones, they're just learning that for the first time to read and things like that. They need those clues and help to understand, I think.
Yeah.
But man, an adult, I think you can do almost whatever you want in fiction.
Make up your own language.
So
in fiction.
Yeah, for sure.
So Patty, I know all of us are thinking, okay, so I'm getting ready to submit or publish. Is there a clean enough? I know we kind of talked about this with the copy editor, but is it the due date? Say you're not on a due date, right? Say you're having to self-inflict a due date.
Yes.
When do you let it go?
I let it go after someone I trust wants only the best for me, to have radical candor types of conversations about my writing. I remember I was
I love
writing,
that.
thank you. I was writing a blog post and I really liked it. But when your head's so in it, you're like, is anyone else going to make sense of this? So I asked my husband to read it and he started laughing. And I'm like, this isn't a funny piece. I don't know why you're laughing. And I'm like, okay, let me try it with someone else. And that's when I asked my son to read it, who was in high school at the time. And he got it. And then he was able to give me suggestions with radical candor and also tell me the things that really worked. And so he's a more trustworthy writing partner for me, even though
I
he's
love
out of the
that.
house.
Give
Your
it to the high
husband?
school.
I love that too.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Fire your husband. Understandable.
Yes.
Sometimes it must be done.
Great.
Yep. But that, I think when you really have someone on your side and they give you what they think because they know you really well, and then copy editor.
All right.
Little copy editor. Can't
Right.
go without those. So, are you
Yeah.
ready for a?
We sure love our copy
Are you
editors.
ready for a lightning round of
Yes.
questions? All right, here we go.
Oxford comma, best friend or unnecessary drama?
Best friend. And I hope you all feel the same.
Nikki wins.
I
Nikki
do.
wins.
It avoids so much
Yes.
confusion.
When I
Okay.
sign my book, that's the note that I put up, the Oxford comma.
Oh, I love it. That's
There you
fun.
go. Okay, here's one that I'm guilty of. Fragments. Guilty pleasure or dangerous habit?
I would lean more toward dangerous habit.
I'm in trouble.
Yes,
I
you
am.
are, sister.
I am.
I'm the same way. Starting a sentence with and or but. Totally fine or still controversial?
It's not controversial with me. I think as long as you know how, you can start with and but.
That's the gold nugget right there, if you know how, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And in fact, I know this is lightning round, so I don't have to go into a story.
You can tell us.
No,
so
go
we'll
for
take
it.
one.
So I work directly with schools, and I was working with this one school, and we were writing grammar curriculum, and we must have spent 10 to 15 minutes looking at a sentence that started with the word and. And the teacher was like, I cannot include this. It is not grammatically correct. And I said, I think it is. And finally, we had to call or text Tim, my co author, and it was a grammatically sound sentence. And she's like, but I was always told never to do that. I'm like, yeah, so that wasn't really correct. Then you were told that.
Unlearning
Mm-hmm.
misconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next one. Adverbs, misunderstood helpers or writing crutches?
I think they're writing crutches when there's too many of them. I think they are helpers when they are carefully selected.
Sometimes you gotta have one.
I remember when I
You know
first
what,
started
Heather?
writing, though, I went through one of my first passes was where are all the ly words? You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Mhm.
It does happen.
It does.
Okay, dialogue grammar. Should writers follow strict rules or let your characters break them?
Definitely let the characters break them.
Yeah.
The character's voice and whole personality comes through when there are different ways of writing dialogue. And you can differentiate between more than one character when thinking about the rules of dialogue.
One grammar mistake you see all the time that makes you quietly wince.
I must go back to my comma splice. It's still there.
Okay. She's consistent.
Love it.
She is. One grammar rule you wish writers would stop apologizing for breaking.
I'm thinking
The M dash, maybe.
Yes. Thank you. You just made me feel a little forgiveness.
Heather's good like that.
That's great. Yeah, I think we can stop apologizing for using grammar in the way we want it to sound. That's it. We want it to sound like this.
Especially in our dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last one. I'm going to give you a fill in the blank. Grammar should make writing feel more blank and less blank.
Grammar should make writing feel more artistic rather than an act of completion.
Ooh, I love that. Okay.
Can we fit that on a t-shirt?
That's really good.
That's brilliant.
Maybe
Absolutely.
a sweatshirt down the arms or something.
Right. A big scarf.
I love it. And radical candor.
Mm-hmm. I did not come up with those words, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole movement around radical candor, and you know that someone wants what's best for you when they're willing to see what could be better.
That's awesome. Okay, so 2 questions before we leave. One is, if a writer listening today feels stuck between wanting to sound professional and wanting to sound like themselves, what's the one thing you hope they remember about grammar?
I'm going to go back to their audience. If they're applying for a job and they need to write something within that realm, don't sound like yourself as much. It's like code switching. You know, the way that I talk to my friends is not the way that I talk to my mom, even as old as I am. I just don't go there. So I think it really depends on who you're writing for.
That's great. And where can our listeners find you and your books, Patty?
Yes.
So my website is chock full of resources. It's pattymcgee.org. And I just want to point out that we want to spell Patty with a Y, because Patty with an I is a famous skateboarder from the 60s. And that's not me.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well, Patty,
Thank you so
has
much
been
for
really
coming
fun,
today.
and who knew talking about grammar could be
Yes.
so much fun? But
Thank you for
Yes.
making it fun.
My pleasure. I'm going to just say, I'm going to make grammar fun, one conversation at a time.
That is a great goal, and thank you
T-shirt.
for doing it with us.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
Check our swag store for possibly upcoming designs.
Excellent.
Thanks again, Patty.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Wayward Writers.
Let's connect. Find us at waywardwriters.com, X, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
See you next time. Conquer your path.